Hi everyone, I'm Whitney and this is Come Home for Comfort. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a follow-up to last week's video where I talked about why I have chosen to make home life my first priority. And so I'm really excited because your comments were just so sweet and encouraging and remind me, as they always do, when I talk about homemaking anywhere on the internet, I'm always reminded that there is an army of women who really love homemaking as much as I do. So thank you for being here and for joining this conversation, because it's really exciting to know that there are many other women out there who love homemaking, who desire to make it their priority. So welcome back. At the end of this video, I'm going to talk about some of those comments that were in last week's video. There were a lot of good points that were brought up, some just really interesting comments, and then also some questions that I want to address as well. So I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But today I'm going to talk about how to make home life your first priority. So before I get into that, I want to make two statements, as I did last week, to kind of set the foundation and to clear up any confusion. The first statement is that I do not believe that I am doing it the only right way. That didn't come out very clearly, did it? Here it is. I'm not arguing that everyone should live their life the way that I live my life. I can only speak to my personal experience and hope that that encourages you in yours. So I am married. I've been married for a little over 8 years, and I have worked part-time and full-time throughout those 8 years. I've always worked. I'm not a stay-at-home wife. I was single for about 4 years before I got married, and I worked a very demanding full-time job in that time period as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, about how you can prioritize home life when you are a single person. So my second statement kind of follows up what I was just saying, and it is that you do not have to be a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom in order to prioritize your home life. The reason that I began my blog, comehomeforcomfort.com, the whole reason I'm on the internet is because I want to encourage women in every stage of life that you can thrive at home. No matter what you do, if you have kids, whether you don't have kids, married, single, divorced, widowed, whatever your situation, if you are a woman, this applies to you. All right, so today I'm going to talk about 2 ways that you can prioritize your home life. I have 2 more that I'll share in another video, but so in order to keep this video short, I'm only going to talk about 2. So the first way that you can prioritize your home life is you must be confident in your priorities. Our priorities are the things that are important to us. So you have to know what they are in order to give them correct priority, to give them the right kind of status. That's what I want to say, the right status in your life. So I would encourage you, if you've never done this, to take a moment and just write down the things that are important to you in your life. If you want to pause the video even and just write them down to kind of help you as we go farther into the video, write down those things. So that could be things like your marriage, your children, your job, your things you do to volunteer, whether it's at church, your kid's school, or at some kind of nonprofit, something that you're passionate about. It could be your extended family, if you're caring for your parents or for a sibling, for nieces and nephews, if you're a foster parent, or you want to be a foster parent. All of those kind of things are your priorities. You might also find, as you really think about it in your own mind and your heart, that one of your priorities is pleasing people. We all struggle with that. Everybody does. And sometimes that can really affect our priorities and the way that we give status to certain priorities. So keep that in mind and be aware of how your desire to please people affects the choices that you make and how you spend your time. So not all of those things are bad. The things that I listed, like marriage and family and your home life and keeping your house in order and having the laundry done and all those things, your fitness, those things they're good things. So not all those things are bad. Pleasing people, or maybe other priorities that you have may not be as good as some of the others. I don't know, you have to decide that on your own. But the thing that I really want you to realize as you write all those things down is that only one thing can have that #1 spot. You can't have 2 #1 priorities. You can only have 1. So just because something gets the #4 spot doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it can't be #1. So I would really encourage you to just take a moment and write those things down and then put them in order of which one is the most important. For me, of course, my relationship with God is the most important thing in my life, and that isn't really even #1. It kind of applies to all of my priorities. So for me, my #1 priority is my marriage. So underneath that, all the other things are going to have to fall into line. My job is a priority, but I'm not going to let that I let my marriage suffer at the expense of my job. That's kind of an explanation of how that applies. So I hope that you will really be confident in your priorities, and that will help you as you make the decisions to prioritize your home life. All right, number 2, how you can prioritize your home life is learn to say no. That's really hard for a lot of us, isn't it? Saying no is difficult. It's uncomfortable. It's just not fun. But you must learn to say no, because once you've decided what your priorities are, you must say no to things that are lower down on the list in order to give a higher status and preference to your number 1 to whatever top priorities. You've probably heard that when you say yes to something, that you're saying no to something else. But I like to flip it around. When you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to something else. So for me, again, my experience, I say no to hanging out with friends after work, and I'm saying yes to going to the grocery store and filling my home with groceries and food for the week. Sometimes that is the decision I have to make. I've said no to spending an extended weekend with my family so that I can come home and go to church with my husband on Sunday. Saying no is saying yes. If you struggle with saying no, I have a suggestion for you. I haven't read a lot of books in the last 10 years. I'm not really a reader, but I read this book. It's called The Best Yes by Lisa TerKeurst, and it is an excellent book. I went through this actually with some friends. We did like a weekly, book club kind of thing, and it was really, really interesting. And the girls that were in the book club, we all were kind of in different stages of life. We're different people, different backgrounds, and we all voice cracked. We all found a way that this book really helped us. So I want to read just a couple. I'm not going to read to you. I'm not going to bore you, I promise. But just to kind of give you an idea of what this book is like. I love, it's just so freeing, the things that she says in this book. Never is a woman so fulfilled as when she chooses to underwhelm her schedule so she can let God overwhelm her soul. Can you imagine a life where you have an underwhelmed schedule? Doesn't that sound great? The quote that was the most impactful, that stuck with me the most from this book, is on page 64. Today's choices become tomorrow's circumstances. That applies in so many areas of life. If you are trying to create better habits in what you eat, it's a great application to this. Today's choices become tomorrow's circumstances. You can even apply that, so practically in homemaking, where at the end of the day, if I'm tired, I just want to go watch Netflix, but the dish drainer is full of clean dishes. If I choose to just go to bed and leave the dish drainer full of clean dishes, when I get up in the morning, they're still going to be there, and I'm going to have to deal with that before I can wash the dishes that need to be washed, and instead of piling them on top of, it could be a little overwhelming. If I had just taken a few minutes the night before, put them away, the next morning would have been a lot easier to wash the dishes and put them right away, because the dish drainer would have been empty. You could really apply that so many ways, and I absolutely love that quote. One more, talking about she gives you like really practical ways to say no. So this is from the chapter, The Power of the Small No. A small no pushes through the resistance of awkwardness and disappointment because it's better to nip something early on. So good. Pushing through the resistance and the awkwardness. I think I've talked about this as well in a previous From My Heart Friday video, and if I have, I'll link it for you up here, because that was really impactful for me as well, because it's awkward to say no to someone. There's disappointment in telling them, no, I can't volunteer with that. I really need to be home to make dinner, so I can't volunteer, that kind of thing. So I will link this for you. I think I got mine at Hobby Lobby, but you can also get it on Amazon, probably in your local Christian bookstore, Lifeway or Crossway, or whatever kind of way you have in your town. But it's a really great book. If you struggle with saying no, I highly, highly recommend it. One more thing about saying no, I've found that when I do say no, if I give the reason behind it, it really serves to encourage other women who are struggling to say no. So for example, when you are asked to do something outside of your home, whatever it is, and it's like right at dinner time. And so if you say, really love to do that. However, dinner time is really important for me to be home to, get things on the table. We enjoy sitting together and talking throughout the supper meal. It's just really important, but thank you so much for asking. Or if you explain, hey, supper time can be really chaotic, and if I push it back until 7, then we're really tired and I'm not able to give my best attention to cleaning up the kitchen afterwards. It's just better for me if I go on home and get dinner on the table and get things cleaned up. Well, we all struggle with that. Everybody, I think, at some point struggles with that. Dinner's over, the kitchen's a mess. Do I do it now? Do I do it later? And just by sharing your why behind your no can really encourage other women who struggle with the same thing, because we all do. All right, so those are 2 ways that you can prioritize your home life. I have 2 more that I'll share in another video, but right now I want to just talk about some of the comments that you all left on last week's video because they were so good. This one is from my friend Whitney Jordan. She blogs over at Polka Dotty Place. I'll link her blog down below. I love her. She is just encouraging and inspiring. She has great ideas. Check her out if you haven't already, if you're not familiar with her. She said, homemaking doesn't feel like a popular opinion right now because it often means saying no to fun things. Such a good point. Or signing up for things that would require a lot of time and energy away from home. I love that. And she said, I'm always reminding myself that it's good to be different in the eyes of the world so that I can make my house a retreat for my family. So good. She keeps that in her mind. It's okay to be different when everyone else is just cramming their schedules and stressing themselves out to the max. It's okay that I'm not like that because my priority is to make my home a haven for my family. I love that. I love this comment from Tara. She talked about her husband is active duty military and they've traveled around a lot, and so her choice to stay home full time has been able to give her family a sense of like a constant presence in the home and has helped make all of their transitions a little bit easier. So she said that it's not always been a popular choice, but it's given her family a sense of security. Who would have thought that a choice to stay home full time would have such an impact on their family? I love that. Connie brought up a really good point that I want to mention as well, and she talked about different seasons of our life. Sometimes you feel like you're barely hanging on by a thread, maybe when your children are small or if you're working a very demanding full-time job. So different seasons of your life will definitely look different in the way that you prioritize your home life. That's been true for me as well. When I worked full-time and was on my feet a lot of the time, I worked in retail, I wasn't able to come home and do a lot of chores at night because I was just tired. So I had to shift around when I did my cleaning. I delegated. Paul and I kind of shared some of the chores. I'll talk about that as well in the next video. But different seasons of life look differently in how you make your home life a priority. And then Connie also mentioned sometimes if your life isn't as demanding, it's tempting to fill your schedule with those non-essentials that take you away from home. And just a reminder that it's okay to not have a full schedule and to have lots of time to be a homemaker. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I love this comment from Cindy. She said, I live alone, so I feel like it's less of a priority and it's selfish to make a home run well just for me. Love that. Great comment. And I want to speak to that as well because there was a time in my life when I was single. I lived alone and did not have a roommate. So the only person that my home really affected day to day was me. So of course I didn't spend as much time caring for my home. When you're the only person there, you're not making a lot of a mess. You don't have to cook as often. All those things are different. However, I did set in place different routines. I went shopping, a certain time each week that when it was less busy. I did meal prep. There was even a time, because I worked a very demanding job, I worked about 70 hours a week sometimes, and part of the time I didn't even live in the same city. I lived in 2 different places, so it was my life was very work-centered. So I made it a priority to, on Sunday nights before I went out again on Monday morning, I would go to the grocery store, I would meal prep for the week. I took a lot of my meals with me when I traveled for work. I would make sure that my house was very clean on Monday morning before I left. I remember, and I still do this, I love it. Before I would leave my home on Monday morning to be gone for the whole week, I would turn around at the door and just look over the whole, it was like an open living area apartment. And I just got such satisfaction from knowing that everything was clean, the trash can was emptied, everything just looked spotless. Knowing that when I came home at the end of the week, after being very busy and having a long week of work, that my home would be peaceful and clean and ready for me to do whatever I wanted to do that weekend. If I was going to entertain, I had a lot of my friends were single as well, so I'd have company over the weekend. It was just really peaceful to know that I could come home to a place that was clean and was a haven for me. And then for my friends that might stop by when they were traveling through, even if I wasn't home, I could just say, you got a key, help yourself, and knowing that it was clean. Yes, it's a different kind of life. You have different priorities, but you can prioritize your home life, and there are people that it matters to other than just yourself when you're a single person. So don't feel ashamed or selfish by prioritizing your home life, because you can use your home to be a blessing to others, even as a single person, and even just for yourself. It's good to make good habits for maybe another time in your life when you will have others living in your home, whether it's a spouse or children or a niece and nephew, whatever it is. It's always a good idea to create good habits and to make your home a priority, because you can use it to bless others for sure. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I would love for you to leave your comments down below. Even if you don't agree with me, I still like you. Just be nice. And if there are comments that I need to address in the next video, or good thoughts that I did not come up with, I'm sure you'll have lots of those. I would love to share those as well in the next video as well. So leave them down below, and I can't wait to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!